Hey everybody, thank you so much for finding us here at Press A to Talk. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Nintendo 64 on Nintendo Switch Online. My name is Kurt, and this is Joe. Before we
Hey,
get to our main topic, first, Joe, what have you been playing?
I've been playing A Link to the Past for the first time on an actual Super Nintendo. It's been a really slow burn, but it's my first time ever experiencing the game aside from like speed runs where they're just breaking everything or randomizing everything or mixed in with Super Metroid somehow. So it's been interesting to finally play one of the games that people say is the best Zelda game of all time.
Wait, so to clarify, you said you're playing it for the first time on an actual Super Nintendo. Do you mean you're playing it for the first time, period?
First time period, yeah.
You've never
I've
played
never
Link to the Past before?
I've never played A Link to the Past.
Wow, and would you say that Zelda is like one of your favorite franchises?
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
That's really interesting.
Uh,
What do you? I know you've only played a little bit because you just got done moving. You can see the boxes behind me. I sympathize.
mhm.
I know that takes a lot of time, but what do you think of it?
It's really good, but it's
Yeah,
also like a little bit more. I kind of got lost as soon as I went to I think the Dark World
yeah,
because I just got like turned around and I didn't know what to do. And there were a couple times where I just like was wandering around aimlessly for a little bit before I finally found like somebody who was like, "Oh, you're supposed to go this way," and then they mark it on your map and tell you exactly where to go.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It,
aside from the couple times I've been turned around, the music is really good, the combat's really good. It's amazing so far.
have you been surprised by anything?
Not particularly because I have seen some speedruns. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
knew
that's
things
true.
like
That's true.
uh, like when Link turns into a bunny or something. I've seen stuff like that. I just haven't like read the story or anything aside from like the 5 minutes I played it on an emulator years ago.
I gotcha. You mentioned combined with Super Metroid.
Hmm.
That is a very good speed run.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
for those of you who are watching and might not be aware, basically there are like certain warp points in the game where if you go through a certain doorway, you'll end up playing the other game. And
Hmm.
the ones that I've seen, the items are also randomized entirely throughout both
Yeah,
games. So you can
which is
be opening a chest in Zelda and you'll find the super missiles in there.
yeah, it's crazy, especially since I've played Super Metroid like a million times. So I was always watching that from like the experience of somebody who knows one game,
Uh,
and now I finally know both sides of the story.
I'm gonna plug something that's not ours. If you want to watch a really good version of like the randomized Zelda Metroid mix up. That's what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
I recommend checking out the Super Beard Bros channel because they did a randomized crowd control
Oh,
mix up for charity,
yeah.
and it was very good. And they let people pay like $50 or something to just kill the player character at any
Yeah.
point. And in Zelda, that's not a big deal because you just restart the doorway. But in Metroid, you have to save in specific rooms, and so they'll lose like 20 minutes of progress at a time. And throughout the
Mhm.
series, they keep just bumping the price up higher and higher and higher, and people are still just like, "Oh, you're about to beat this boss, dead." And it's really good. It's really funny. Um,
And also, Summer Games Done Quick is coming up for us at the time of this recording. They usually do a randomizer of at least A Link to the Past or Super Metroid or both during the Summer Games Done Quick.
do you remember the dates for that?
It's I think it's sometime in the 20s, like 20th through 24th or something like that.
I might check that out. I might check that
Hmm.
out. Well, it's funny that you were playing A Link to the Past because I am playing a game very much inspired by A Link to the Past. I finally got Tunic to work on my computer.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, how's
it's
that?
it's very good. In
Yeah.
case you haven't been with me on this saga, I I had Game Pass on PC. It released
Mhm.
day one in like March, I think, maybe late February, but I think March. I downloaded it, I opened it, and then I just had a black window.
Oh no.
And I uninstalled it and I reinstalled it. Same thing. I updated the Microsoft Store, tried to download it directly from there. I updated
Hmm.
the Xbox app. I did everything.
Oh.
Didn't work. I tried again in April. Didn't work. I tried again in
Oh.
May. Didn't work. The other day I was just looking through Game Pass. I was like, I wonder. And lo and behold, it works for some reason. So
Oh,
uh,
that sounds about right.
yeah, but it's working and it's so good. I'm kind of binging it. I think it's about 10 to 15 hours on how long to beat.
Hmm.
I'm trying to binge it before the move because it's the type of game where I feel like you could really easily lose your place if you're not like keeping with it. Like you were talking
Yeah.
about in A Link to the Past, they just kind of drop you into the big world and don't give you direction at first. That's
Hmm.
this whole game. There's almost no point where they're like, all right, go this way.
Yeah.
It's really interesting though. So for Tunic it's a Zelda-like top-down isometric. You play as a little fox, dressed like Link with a sword and a shield. You get items similar to Link's. They're a little more, I'm going to say creative, but they just wanted to make them distinct. So you have something that's the same thing as a hook shot, but instead it's like a magic orb that shoots out a frog's tongue. Like it's weird
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was really neat.
Yeah. I think it's
Neat.
coming to Switch like this month or next month, isn't it?
Is it? I know it's coming to
I think.
PlayStation in September. Is it coming to Switch?
I don't know. I could be wrong. I thought I heard it was.
I got you. Well, if it is, you should get it because it's very good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they don't tell you anything. There's almost no NPCs that are not just enemies.
Yeah.
Um, and so you're just running around exploring, and the only way you really get any kind of guidance is you start finding pages laying on the ground, and they're pages to an instruction booklet, like an old school NES game insert instruction
Oh, that's
booklet
cool.
with like retro art and everything. And
That's really cool.
yeah, it's really interesting. And so it's like the journey begins, and it's like a list of places, and then it's like ring the bells at the east and the west, and the list of places. There's also a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that's in like a made up language, like some kind of like glyphs.
Hmm.
I've heard people talk about that over time you like learn how to read the language and it kind of uncovers. I haven't figured that out, but
Yeah.
so some of it's in English, some of it's this made up language. So you're just like staring at it, trying to find hints of what you need to do. And you're like, wait a second, I recognize that shape. That means it's this area. I'm going to go there and find what I need.
Almost reminds me of Final Fantasy X a little bit. I don't know if you played that, but you get
I've
to a point where
started
they're
it.
like, yeah, some of the stuff in the game is in a completely different language, and throughout the
Hmm.
course of the game, you come across things that will like translate one letter of it. So anytime that language comes up, that letter will be translated to English.
Just like real language works.
Exactly.
Tunic perfectly captures like the exploration of a Zelda game, I think.
Hmm.
It feels like you're playing a Zelda game, and as someone whose favorite franchise is Zelda, like that's all I need.
Yeah.
The combat feels good. The only exception I'm going to say is the boss encounters. This game does have, hey everybody, it's happening now. Dark Souls elements. In that you find like small save points littered around the areas, and when you go, your health is restored. You have a set number of potions that get restored. Enemies respawn. If you die, you
Hmm.
lose some money. All that stuff is there. Um, but the difficulty, in my opinion, is not really there, except the boss fights, which are just tremendously harder than the rest of the game. And it's not like, oh, here's the opening area and here's the first boss and here's the second area and here's this next boss. It's like, here's the first area, first boss, like way up here. Second area is back down here, second boss, and then
Oh no.
the third boss, I just was staring at it and I was like, my eyes are bleeding. Like I don't know what to do now. Um, and if you watched any of these episodes with me talking about game difficulty, I have no shame when it comes to looking up guides or you turning down the
Hmm.
difficulty. And Tunic has really good accessibility options. There's one where you can turn off like the stamina, so that means you can roll as much as you want and run as much as you want and use your shield as much as you want without having to worry
Yeah.
about it. But then there's another one that's just called no fail mode, and that just makes you invincible. And I was just like, I'm invincible now, and it was still hard. Like it still took a long time just to like, because you still take like hit stun, you still get in
Hmm.
knockback. So I just like closing in, even I was trying to dodge the attacks. I wasn't just like holding forward. It was still hard.
Yeah.
That was the third boss. I'm sure other people have cleared it, but dude, Tunic is really good. I'm really excited to finish it. Um,
Hmm.
it's currently competing with Horizon for my game of the year so far, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
All right,
That's all.
it's so good, and it's beautiful, and the music's like
Yeah.
lo-fi, kind of chill, which
Hmm.
is interesting for a Zelda experience.
Yeah. I've seen videos of it. It looks gorgeous and adorable.
It is very much so. All right, Joe. let's get
Let's
to
get
our
into it.
topic of the show. So again, we're going to talk about the Nintendo 64 games that are available on Nintendo Switch Online. It's a lot of words. I'm going to say N64 and NSO from now on because it's just too much. So they announced this. When did that trailer come out, Joe? Was it August, September last year?
Oh man, I wish I had it
I'm,
still
I'm putting
pulled
you.
up.
I'm putting
Wait,
you on the spot. You're
wait,
my
hold on. It's coming. I got it.
you're my man in the chair.
Uh,
Even though I think you're
March
standing.
18th.
March
March
18th.
18th. Yep.
Is that the announcement
Doesn't
trailer?
doesn't that make sense? That's the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack overview trailer. That's when that video came out, March 18th, 2022.
N64 online Switch announcements. Hold on.
Maybe that was something
This
else.
is September 2021. Okay.
The UK one came out a month ago.
I don't know if that must be something else. That's funny. Okay, so yeah, they announced this in September. The first games came out, I think, the next month, which is October, if I remember my calendars correctly.
Mhm.
They showcased it was going to launch with Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Yoshi's Story, Ocarina of Time, everyone's favorite. Say it with me, Joe.
Winback.
Winback. Mario Tennis, Dr. Mario 64. And this one's actually really cool. The first time Sin and Punishment has come
Mhm.
to the West. So that's interesting. And then they also announced some games that would be coming later, including Paper Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, Majora's Mask, F-Zero X, Mario Golf, Kirby 64, and Pokemon Snap. So I just wanted to go through real quick, Joe. Actually, let's start. Nintendo Switch Online. You have the expansion pass,
Mhm.
$50 a year, unless you're part of a family plan. What do you think about it?
Uh, it's definitely significantly smaller than NES and SNES were, or
Mm,
at least NES for sure. But they do, in their defense, there aren't nearly as many games on the N64 as there are the NES and the SNES,
yeah,
and a lot of them are significantly bigger. Although to be fair, it's still like megabytes in
yeah,
today's standards compared to
but
like
like
hundreds of
length,
gigabytes other games are. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure. There's more to them, especially because a lot of NES games, for comparison, were like still in that transition period between like going from arcade games to full-blown stories with environments and worlds and stuff.
hmm
So there's less games, but there's more to them, and they are probably significantly longer than things like the NES and SNES games.
yeah. You're absolutely right. And also it's still newer. I
Hmm.
don't remember how many games NES and SNES launched with, but I know both of their libraries have grown tremendously since they launched. So this one's still
Yeah.
kind of growing.
Hmm.
What do you think about the value versus cost?
I don't pay it. I'm part of a family plan,
Nice, nice. Me too.
but
That's the way you do it.
but they've all. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because they have released these games a million times already, and there's only like what 15, 20 of them right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the price is still it's fairly cheap. If Would you say it was like 50
Just
bucks a year?
$50 for the expansion pass, which you also get,
Yeah,
Genesis
you get it.
Online, SNES, NES, and then
Hmm.
they're starting to make it where DLC is just included with
Yeah,
the subscription.
something about Animal Crossing or whatever.
Yeah, Animal
You know,
Crossing. I think they added the Splatoon 2 DLC retroactively.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
maybe something else. I don't remember.
there's some to it. I'm sure Nintendo critics would obviously criticize this heavily, but if you're a huge Nintendo fan, you've probably played these games before, and you're still probably going to keep buying them for years to come.
And we are Nintendo fanboys. So
Exactly.
that brings me to my last thing before we jump into the games. Would you rather just be able to buy these games, just like outright download them to your Switch and just have them for as long as your Switch works?
Probably, yeah. To
Yeah,
be honest, yeah.
but be honest, Joe. Would you have bought Winback?
Oh, I wouldn't have bought
See,
Winback,
now you had the chance. Yeah,
and I wouldn't have bought Mario 64 again for the Switch
yeah, that is kind of weird that they were like, now check it out. Now you can play Mario 64. And it's like, okay,
with a lower resolution.
yeah, yay, and worse controls,
Yeah.
yay. Yeah, the controls are bad. The controls are bad for N64 Online. I keep seeing the like actual Nintendo 64 controllers for Switch popping
I
up,
would have loved to buy that.
and I'm just like, do I need to buy this? Do I need to spend? I think it's like 40 or $50 for
Hmm.
just this. And I was like, I don't know, but when X on the controller is like down on the like C pad, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know what I need to do.
yeah.
All right. So going through the launch games in the order that they listed them, we talked about it already a little bit. Super Mario 64. I have not booted this up because
I haven't
I've
either.
I've completed this game multiple times, and there's a better version of it available in the All Stars collection.
Not anymore, unless you already had it.
Which I mean, you can
The
find
All-Star
them like
Collection.
in retail, some
Yeah.
places if you're looking.
Hmm.
That's such a weird. We need to do a separate episode. Just like why did Nintendo do X
Yeah.
Y Z QRS Elemental P? Because they do so many weird things.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a staple. It would have been weird if they didn't launch it with Super Mario
It.
64.
Yeah.
And
Honestly, it would have. It wouldn't have made sense.
yeah, I've been like, what is that? Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Mario Kart 64. You like this
I
one,
think
right?
I think this is mostly interesting because of the online capabilities that Nintendo Switch Online offers. Because this game was it was the first Mario Kart that had a four player and was like known for its battle mode and uh cooperative multiplayer, competitive multiplayer rather. So I think mostly the online play is what gives this one its value because even the people who love this game would still mostly say they love it for like battle modes and local multiplayer slash nostalgia. So I think that's where this one would fit perfectly in Nintendo Switch Online,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just for people to be able to play with friends.
I agree completely because me, you, and Zach played Mario Kart 64 online one night, and it was honestly pretty stable. I think Zach was having some internet issues,
Hmm.
so I can't just outright say that no, it was the services problem. Nintendo doesn't have the
Yeah.
best internet, but it worked okay. And I'm pretty sure that most, if not all, of the multiplayer games have that kind of online stuff. So like Mario
Hmm.
Tennis, Mario Golf, F Zero. We need to play F Zero.
Yeah.
We
Later
kept.
that night, Zach and I kept playing. We played Dr. Mario 64 for a bit, and it was stable.
Oh,
It was
nice.
great.
Okay, maybe it
Yeah.
was my internet then that was making everything terrible.
I don't think it was. He probably moved to closer to his router or something.
We're still planning on doing our Mario Kart 64 backlog crew. So I've been
Hmm.
playing that off and on here lately. I've definitely gained more of an appreciation for this game because when I played on an actual Nintendo 64, I don't know if it was the controller or what, but I was like, this controls terribly. It looks ugly. The render distance is like 2 inches. And don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, I have those same complaints, but they're not nearly as severe as they were before I played it on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah.
Um, I watched you play this one, Star Fox 64.
I love Star Fox 64. I legitimately brought my N64 to college and played it while I was there when I was staying with my old roommate.
Would
I
you just sit it down every once in a while and just beat it in one sitting?
hmm
Yeah.
It's a very short game. It's meant to be replayed just dozens and dozens and dozens of times because it's one of those games where you start out in the same point, you finish at the same point, and then there's branching paths, and you can go any which way you want in between the start and the finish. And then it also has a bunch of other completion stuff if you like kill enough enemies and you do that for all the planets in the game and then you unlock hard mode and you do it again and you unlock different versions of the multiplayer. But the controls in this game are just insanely tight and it feels amazing to fly around. And then it's got the infamous voice acting and whatnot.
When these games first dropped, people were talking online. It's like they designed the control layout with only Star Fox 64 in mind, and then they're like, "All right, everything else, too bad. Like, deal with it."
Yeah, that is one of the downfalls of the N64 is because its controller is so weird, and it has C-stick buttons as opposed to every other controller in the known universe. So anytime you're trying to play an N64 game, unless you have like modify the control setups, you're going to be using a C-stick for
Yeah,
games that required you to like hold Z and press C down, or hold Z and move the control stick down and then press C up or something. So it's
it's
just going to be awkward no matter what you're playing on.
it's very strange when it's like with Winback especially. It's like you lock on enemies by pressing up on the right stick, and it's like, that is terrible.
Yeah.
But I really need to play Star Fox 64. It's like one of the big holes in my like Nintendo repertoire of just like
Hmm.
their big games that I haven't played. Um, but So people, when Star Fox Zero came out, people complained a lot that it was like Star Fox 64, but so it wasn't original enough, but it also wasn't as good as Star Fox 64. And I know that you didn't like it because you sold it to me for cheap, like the week that it launched.
I think I
So,
sold it to you like the day of or the day after or something because I played through it once and I hated it.
oh
And I didn't
gosh,
want to do it again.
was it just the controls, or did they met? Was it something about the structure that was different than in Star Fox 64?
It so it's like it's weird. They tried to remake the game, but they didn't. They made it like a retelling of the game where they also like changed up the worlds that you go to. They changed up the bosses and boss fights, but it's still also the same story somehow kinda.
Yeah.
But what a lot of one of the big things was they added new modes for the game to be played in, or like new vehicles for you to move around in. So they had like little walkers. They changed the way the Landmaster controls,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest thing that a lot of people know about is the camera controls in the game, or the controls of the way you move the ship, because the camera is on the first person view is on the gamepad, and then you use the Wii U gamepad like gyroscope to move around where you're aiming, but you can't really see where you're aiming on the main screen, which is where you would primarily be looking for all the enemies and things that you'd be looking at. So they kind of designed it for you to be looking at both the gamepad and the TV screen at the exact same time, and then trying to control both at the same time. And it left a sore taste in everybody's mouth,
But
or a bad taste rather.
Joe, you have two eyes. Why didn't you just like look
Why
at
did I
the
just
different
use?
screens? I, there were moments where I struggled with it. I enjoyed the game well enough not to sell my copy immediately. But I haven't played it again, so I don't know. I'm not the biggest Star Fox fan in general, so I was curious what your perspective on that situation was.
Also, it is like the only Star Fox game I've played. I've just played it a billion times.
Dude, you gotta. It's nothing like this. You gotta play Star Fox Command. That's my favorite Star Fox game.
I've heard it's good.
It's
I've
so
heard it's
good.
really good.
It's like we're getting way off track. It's like it's on the DS, and it's
Hmm.
like it's kind of like Fire Emblem, where you it's like a top-down strategy game.
Hmm.
But instead of like moving like on a chessboard, you draw the path you want your ship to fly, and
Uh,
you have a certain like amount of distance you can go, and you can
hmm.
redraw until you get the path that you want to take.
uh,
And then you take that path. And typically, you're trying to like get somewhere or maybe defeat all the enemies on a map. When you run
hmm.
into an enemy, then it starts a combat encounter that's in the style of traditional Star Fox of like
Yeah.
space flight shooter. I really liked it, and there was because it's like a strategy game. You have several playable characters, at least a dozen, and you're
Yeah.
controlling like multiple of them throughout each battle. And there's also like a dozen endings, and one of them, I'm pretty sure Crystal leaves Fox, and Fox gets real sad,
Oh.
and he's like drinking his life away, and then Falco's like, "I have an idea," and then they become F-Zero pilots.
Oh.
It's really good.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that's
really
like an
good.
ideal Star Fox game for you. 'Cause it's strategy
I
based and it sounds
really
like
liked it.
Fire
I
Emblem.
I don't know if it holds up, but I got every single ending. Like I completed that game.
Hmm.
Next is Yoshi's Story.
I love the Yoshi story.
You love
This is
Yoshi's
a game.
Story?
Yeah, this is another game that I had when I was a kid growing up that I played a billion times. It's
I had never played it before checking it out on NSO, but it's really cute.
Mhm.
The jumping's a little weird, which is sad because Yoshi's Island, its predecessor on the Super Nintendo, the jumping's like perfect in that game. That
Yeah.
is probably my third favorite platformer after 2D
Hmm.
platformer because it's really good. And what I played of this game also is good, but it feels a little clunkier, which most of these early 3D games feel a little clunkier than
Hmm.
the later 2D games, which is I think fair.
Yeah. It's also one of the games on the N64 that is actually like not 3D,
Really?
as in like it's like 2.5D or whatever. Because it's a side scroller.
I see what you mean. I thought it was like you meant it was like flat sprites that just
No, no,
gave the
no.
illusion, and I was like,
Yeah,
what? Okay,
no, that's Mario Kart.
that is Mario Kart. They look really bad sometimes.
Yeah.
But Yoshi's Story is really cute. Instead of just like a left to right level progression, it's like exploring a big level and then collecting all the fruit, or not all
Hmm.
the fruit, but enough fruit. And then when you
Yeah.
do you have to go through like a gate, or you just like finish the level, or you just like teleport out of there?
It It literally just starts you back over if you've played the entire level. You go into like a little pod or whatever, and it just sends you back to the beginning of the level, and it's like
Ah,
get enough fruit to finish the level.
it's like Wario World then. With
Yes,
those little balloons that take you to the beginning.
it's just like Wario World.
Oh, Ryder would love this game. Yoshi's Story is delightful, and the opening cinematic feels generous, but the opening cinematic is adorable and it's so cute.
hmm
With all the Yoshis get stolen, and then the Yoshi eggs hatch, and the baby Yoshis are like, "Let's go save everyone with the power of happiness," and
hmm
it's so good.
It also does a weird thing where it's kind of like Star Fox in a sense, where you're meant to play it over and over again, because there's 6 worlds in the game, and
Uh,
each world has 4 levels, but you can only play one of the levels per world per playthrough.
really, I didn't get that far.
hmm
That's really
Did you
interesting.
did you finish a playthrough of the game?
No, I finished a level or two.
It gets surprisingly difficult. Which I guess if you've played Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, you'd probably be expecting that from a Yoshi game.
Uh,
But as someone who didn't play that when they were a kid, it was shocking. It also gets like really dark and creepy because there's like lava worlds and there's bone dragons and saws and stuff everywhere and like a bunch of ghosts and stuff. But it's fun. I enjoyed that game when I was little, and I still enjoy it to this day.
I got to get back to it.
hmm
The next one, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, Joe, you call yourself a Zelda fan. Have you played this
hmm
one?
I have played this one. I played it on the Wii Virtual Console when it came out.
Nice. Did you play the 3DS version?
I did play the 3DS version actually.
So this is probably my, I don't know, third or fourth favorite Zelda game.
hmm
It's hard to go back to the 64 graphics after playing the 3DS version.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of is. I remember when it came to the 3DS and I was kind of upset because I didn't think it looked that much better than the N64 version because it was like back then I remember thinking it was only Link's model that had upgraded and everything else felt pretty similar.
Uh,
But I know if I would actually look at it now, I would easily be able to tell the difference between the two.
it's pretty, like, tremendous of a difference. And I'm
hmm
just sitting here waiting for Ocarina of Time HD. If they can put Mario 64 on there twice, they can put Ocarina of Time on the Switch twice. Because I just want to play it with beautiful HD graphics. But Ocarina of
hmm
Time is so good. I think it's the game that I immediately jumped into, and I played all the way until you get to Ganon's castle at the very end. And then I was like, all right, I'm done done now
Oh,
for
that's
some
tough.
reason. I'll go back and finish that one day.
Yeah. I definitely still have fond memories of that game, especially doing like the fetch quest missions to get
Mhm.
like the big Oran sword and like collecting all the chickens and going through Lost Woods and everything. And even still, it's like one of the most speed ran games.
Yeah.
It always shows up at like the GDQ events, and there's always fierce competition. There's like tons of YouTube videos showing all the progression of the world record and how they've done it in like less than 10 minutes.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's crazy.
phenomenal to watch.
It's crazy seeing people glitch through a wall in the first dungeon and then
Mhm.
kill Ganon with a stick on
There's
accident or like by teleporting there.
There was recently a video of somebody beating the game within the constraints of the Super Smash Bros. Brawl demo
I know, I
of the
saw
game that you
that.
could play. It's so cool. I love how much people love this game.
I was planning on completing it, just like 100%ing it on NSO, but I got everything, I think, except for the Skulltulas, the golden
Mhm.
Skulltulas, and I was like, there can't be that many. I don't want to read a guide the whole time I'm playing this. I'll just collect as many as I can, and I collected like 60. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's got to be most of them. It is not. Hold on, let me look up
I
how
don't actually
many
remember how
gold
many there are.
Skulltulas in Ocarina of Time. There's 100. So I found like a little over half.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'll use a guide. But then, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but all the guides are like, all right, start in this room with the Great Deku Tree. The first one is here. And then you like get to the third one. It's like, now take a left. And it's like, wait, where are we now? Because I already got the first one. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a slow process if I decide to go back and get those. So we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Um, everybody's favorite game, Metal Gear.
Winback.
I mean, Winback. Yeah, Winback. I heard people jokingly refer to Winback, which I had never heard of before they announced it as one of the launch
I neither.
games. I heard people jokingly refer to it as Metal Gear Solid on the Nintendo 64. It literally is just Metal Gear Solid on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, from the 5 minutes I played of it, that's exactly what it seemed like.
It's like slightly different as far as gameplay goes because so Winback's like a military espionage shooter kind of thing. It's a third person camera, kind of like Ocarina of Time, and you're running around, and then you're aiming like you do like Resident Evil 4, like all around the screen.
Mhm.
The first Metal Gear is a little different. It's more top down, and when you aim, Snake like stands still and then he pivots and he just aims in a circle around him. So the
Yeah.
perspective's slightly different, um, but the opening plot is just identical. The opening plot to Metal Gear Solid is Snake terrorists have taken over this government base that has a deadly weapon that will destroy the world if it falls in the wrong hands. You got to infiltrate and get it back. And then Winback opens with, "All right, they stole our nukes. We got to get them back." It's like, hold on, this is the exact same premise, and it's very funny.
Mhm.
Um, it actually is kind of fun though. It actually plays kind of well.
I think I enjoyed it when I was playing it for a few minutes. I remember just opening the NSO with my brother, and I was like, "Oh yeah, look, they got our old N64 games on. What's this?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this before." And I opened it up, and I was like, "This seems like Metal Gear Solid, but I'm walking around and I don't know how to control anything."
So you definitely have to play a tutorial. There's a tutorial on the main menu that you have to click
Hmm.
on. That
I didn't do
goes
that.
through you. If you ever want to just feel just super complimented, then you need to play this tutorial because it's like press B to reload and then you press B and the like narrator's like you're doing great. And then it's like now press A to cling to the wall and you cling to the
Hmm.
wall they're like you're doing great. And like I think they
Oh,
actually say you're doing very well. They say that after literally every button prompt and it's really funny.
oh, that's nice. How sweet of them.
But yeah, I kind of dipped into each of these games in preparation for this episode in the last couple of days, and Winback's the only one where I'm like, I might go back and play a little more of that. That
That's,
was actually kind
that's
of a
the
good
only
time.
one of this list that you wanted to go back and play.
Well, I'd already played. It's new. Also, Dr. Mario 64. I might jump into that. We'll get into that in a second. But
Yeah.
first, let's do Mario Tennis. It
Hmm.
it's Mario Tennis. It definitely feels like if you took Mario Tennis Aces, which is on the Switch and is very good,
Hmm.
and and you know how you like polish off rough edges.
Hmm.
If you did the opposite of that
Yeah,
and
it's
just
rough edges.
made it really rough, then that's what Mario Tennis from Nintendo 64 is. But I mean, it's cute.
It is the most important Mario Tennis game in the franchise because it introduced Waluigi.
It also, I believe, introduced Birdo as a playable character. So I'm gonna agree with you. It is the most important Mario
See,
Tennis game. Um,
there you go.
it really does control okay. Like I would be down to play this with someone playing
Hmm.
who's also struggling with kind of the jank of the controls. Playing against computers didn't feel great because I'd be like,
Yeah.
I pressed it, and they don't care. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, sure you did.
Yeah.
um,
It,
but I do
Mario.
appreciate the roster and how big the roster is.
Oh, how big is the roster?
I
I haven't actually seen it.
I mean I don't know the exact number. I can tell you're looking it up now, but like I mean they have deep cuts. They have Birdo,
Oh
Paratroopa,
yeah,
Boo.
yeah they do. That is pretty significant.
Who,
It's
who's Baby Mario's partner? Is it Toad?
Baby Luigi, according to this screenshot, but I don't think that's real.
I don't think Baby Luigi was in this game.
That's probably a real screenshot. Yeah, it's Toad.
Okay, because
What am I looking
they
at?
hadn't introduced Baby Luigi yet, and they hadn't invented Toadette yet. So I was
Oh, I'm looking at a DeviantArt mockup.
same thing, same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. That explains why Dry Bowser's there.
Yeah, there was also not Dry Bowser in the original Mario Tennis.
Yeah, his partner is Toad.
Okay, the next game was Dr. Mario 64, and this one is kind of weird because there's like a story mode, and I really
Oh
like
yeah.
the art style. It's
Yeah.
like somewhere between Paper Mario and Yoshi's Story, where it's like
Hmm.
they're not stylized like Paper Mario, but the characters are flat and like they're drawn on paper, and then they're like
Yeah.
glued to a piece of cardboard that's in 3D, and they just kind
Uh,
of like puppeteer their way around the stage. And
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a dumb story where some mad scientist stole Dr. Mario's metavitamins and they just are running around trying to get them back. And he keeps like
Hmm.
juking them so they run into innocent bystanders. And the innocent bystanders are like, "How dare you? Let's have a puzzle battle." And then you
Then
play
they start
Dr.
a
Mario.
Pokemon fight.
Yeah, exactly.
I I don't know too much about the Dr. Mario fan base, but I imagine this is probably one of the ones that they consider like the pinnacle of the retro Dr. Mario games,
Mm.
aside from like Dr. Mario Online RX or whatever because of the obvious online capabilities. But this is the one I always hear people talking about when they want to do local co-op Dr. Mario. And I can probably see why it's a lot more fleshed out than the Super Nintendo version is, slash Game Boy version, slash multiplayer.
I do like the original version just because I like the chip tune music a little
Hmm.
bit more than the N64 arrangements, but it's still
Yeah,
Dr. Mario. I also learned that I'm really bad at Dr. Mario
I
because
did too.
for the story mode, they're like, "You want to start on easy, normal, or hard?" I'm like, I'll just do normal. That should be fine." And they're like, "Okay,
Hmm.
level one, 30 viruses." I'm like, "Excuse me," because in the original, it's just kind of it's like old school Tetris where you just beat it gets harder and harder as you go. So the
Hmm.
first level would have like 3 viruses, and I was like, "That's what
Yeah.
normal is." And I think I
Yeah.
got to the fourth level in the story mode of Dr. Mario 64, and it was crazy how fast the computers were
Hmm.
just beating these levels.
Yeah. I learned very quickly that Zach is much better than I am at Dr. Mario when we played together. He absolutely destroyed me. And he got to the point where he was like putting handicaps on himself, and I think I beat him once, where he was like 6 levels higher than me.
Zach is crazy good at certain puzzle games, like competitive puzzle
Hmm.
games. As I played Puyo Puyo Tetris with him one time,
Yeah.
and anytime it was Puyo Puyo on the screen, he was annihilating me. Anytime Tetris was on the screen, I was kind of catching up, but man, he would just I would like hold my breath when Puyo Puyo was happening. It was bad news.
Yeah. I was living when the Switch came out. I remember he played Puyo Puyo a lot. It's just
Hmm.
like anytime he wasn't playing Breath of the Wild.
There weren't a lot of launch games when the Switch launched, so
Yeah,
that was
which
one of
is
the
fair.
better ones for sure.
Hmm.
Next is Sin and Punishment, and I believe that this is the first time it was released in the West. Can you?
I think I think you're right. I'm pretty sure I remember that being why it was a big deal.
I think that's super cool.
Hmm.
Let's
I wish I
see.
had played that ahead of time for this video because I've always seen it before and it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it looks cool. According to How Long to Beat, it's only like 2 hours long. I'm sorry, not How Long to Beat. According to the Game Rant, it's 2 hours long.
Ah,
Excuse me. But yeah, I played a little bit of it. It's very much it's an arcade shooter. That's just what it is. And it feels a little bit like Kid Icarus because you're
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're controlling. It's like a twin stick arcade shooter because you're controlling the aiming with the right stick with the C buttons, but then
Hmm.
your character also like strafes right to left, and then you
Yeah.
also can jump. And so it's very interesting though because I'm pretty sure the shoot button is on like the face buttons. It's like A or B or something, and then the jump button is
Yeah.
R, and that's just very funny because
Oh, that's yeah,
that
that's
that would
weird.
never happen nowadays.
I'm gonna go ahead and clarify by assuming you mean Kid Icarus on the 3DS and not the NES game.
Yes, Uprising. Apologies if I didn't say that. Yeah, Kid Icarus
Yeah.
Uprising. That game's so good. Please port that to Switch. But yeah, it seems cool. I might jump back into this one.
Hmm.
It seemed really easy, but that might have just been the first level. I'm sure it gets crazy hard because like it's like an arcade game because you have a limited time and you have credits and you earn
Hmm.
more credits by beating levels. So I'm pretty sure it gets
That's
pretty
cool.
quarter munchy at the end, even though I don't think this ever actually released in arcades, which is
Yeah.
kind of strange. I'm actually gonna look
Of
that up.
the original launch titles for NSO, I have the only ones I didn't play beforehand, like growing up, were Winback, unfortunately, Mario Tennis, Dr. Mario 64, and Sin and Punishment. I think Sin and Punishment is probably the one that I would want to play the most on NSO.
It seems cool.
Hmm.
And I just looked it up. They have not. It was never an arcade game, so I don't know why they were like you just earned 1 credit. Congratulations. I don't know why that's in there.
I don't know, maybe it's a throwback to the arcade lifestyle.
So those are all the games that launched. but in the announcement trailer, they also showcased games that they would be adding later to N64 on NSO. The games they showed off were Paper Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, Majora's Mask, F-Zero, Mario Golf, Kirby 64, and Pokemon Snap. And starting in December, they have been releasing one of those games a month. So let's go through each of those. In December, they released Paper Mario, and Paper Mario is super good. I played it on a Wii U Virtual Console for the first time a couple years ago, and besides everything being looking like I'm wearing sunglasses, that game is otherwise perfect. Like, it's so good. You don't think so?
I don't remember it being like that on the original console. The sunglasses thing comment that you mentioned.
I don't know. It might be like upresing it to HD. It might have been the Wii U kind of made everything dark because even Donkey Kong
Yeah,
64 was dark on the Wii U. Like all the N64 games were weird lighting
yeah,
on the Wii U.
maybe so. But I'm gonna go ahead and say I love every game that they've put on here since launch.
Oh yeah,
Paper Mario was one of my favorite games growing up, and I like to the point where I was playing it every summer after I finished school, like throughout middle school and high school. I would play it like once a year.
that's a
'Cause
big game to play every year.
I know, I loved Paper Mario growing up.
Yeah. Well, have you played the other Paper Mario's?
I haven't finished Thousand Year Door.
I've never
I played
touched it.
Super Paper Mario. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I played some of Sticker Star as much as I could handle, and then I stopped playing the Paper Mario series after that.
Origami King's a good time. It's very
Mm-hmm.
different than Paper Mario, like the
Mm-hmm.
N64 one. I would recommend it. It's hilarious. There's like some strategy in the battles, but you have to really enjoy the battles, or they become tedious because there's no
Yeah.
experience in leveling up and getting new skill. Like you get new skills, but it's like story based.
Hmm.
So the battles are very superficial, but I found them fun enough to want to engage
Yeah.
with it anyway. So would you
I
say
wanted.
that this Paper Mario is like at the top of your Paper Mario list?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. If I finished Thousand Year Door, I would imagine it would probably be at least tied for first
Uh huh.
because of how much everybody clamors over that game. But I love Paper Mario. It's one of my favorite like RPGs out there.
Yes, likewise. It's super good. January, they for my birthday released Banjo-Kazooie, which you and I were talking about before we started recording. Never thought that would see the light of day,
Yeah,
like
that
on a
is
Nintendo release again.
that's a big deal for Nintendo to do that again.
Yeah, because I mean, not only was it made by a company that Nintendo used to own and they no longer do, they no
Hmm.
longer do because that company is now owned by Microsoft, and these properties are
Yeah,
now owned by Microsoft. But it's there, Banjo Kazooie. I can play it on my Switch right now, and I
yeah.
did, and I played through the whole thing, and it's better than Super Mario 64. And
Oh, yeah.
I said it. It's so good. And Joe, you got to.
Strangely enough, that's almost not a controversial take.
Yeah, people. It's one of those things where people are like, "Hey, well, like you
Hmm.
can't argue it. That game's
Yeah,
really holds its own."
it's actually a phenomenal game. I still
Um,
haven't finished, but I've seen enough of it, and I played through an awful lot of it years ago.
you got to finish it. Just find your old save file, jump on, do it again.
And I should find my old save file on my Microsoft Windows Nintendo computer.
Oh, how'd you get the cartridge to fit? Okay. Yeah, the game's so good. The worlds are super interesting. I love all the collectibles. It's a perfect balance. Because there are some games that we might talk about later in this list that are collectathons just have way too much, and you're like, I gotta get it all. I'm the type of person who's like, I gotta get it all, and if there's way too much, I get overwhelmed. I miss stuff. I go back. I get bored of the level, and I just put it down. Banjo
Yeah,
Kazooie has like the perfect line. The way you get them is always different. There's always fun gameplay mechanics and mini games behind, and good platforming behind how you get it. Get all the different collectibles. My only, not my only complaint, but my biggest complaint with it is it's very old school. So if you are in a level and you die, you lose all of the music notes you were collecting.
yeah,
So if you're trying to get a perfect score and collect all the music notes, you have to do it in one sitting. Whereas
yeah.
in more modern collectathons, like once you get it, you have it. Even if you die, you come back. It's not going to be there. You don't have to get it again.
Hmm.
But otherwise, it's very good, very funny,
Just the,
very good music.
just the fact of Banjo-Kazooie being on NSO opens up a lot of doors and a lot of questions for things that Nintendo could do in the future. Like they could put rare games on the SNES, which I guess they've already done with like Donkey Kong Country and stuff. But
They own
it
those
opens up,
though.
yeah. And you have stuff like I don't know, Killer Instinct or Battletoads and Super Off-Road and all that kind of stuff that they could put on NSO, and then it also opens up to the other N64 rare games that they haven't announced, but they already put Banjo-Kazooie on here, so it's likely they probably will
I hope
put some
so.
more on there.
I know which one you're talking about, but I really want Banjo-Tooie. That's I
Hmm.
really want to play that one now.
That is the Banjo game I had growing up. I didn't have Banjo-Kazooie, I had Banjo-Tooie because I got it from a cousin.
Were you ever confused? You're like, I don't know what the plot is. I don't understand what's happening.
Um, Not particularly. They didn't
I
talk
would
about
hope
the plot
not.
like that much in the beginning
Right,
because
right.
it's not that in depth.
I would hope not for a platformer.
Hmm.
In February, they dropped Majora's Mask, which, in my opinion, is the lesser of the N64 Zelda games. But
Hmm.
it's one of like two Zelda games that I haven't finished.
Yeah.
I want to, but I haven't yet.
I
What are
I
your thoughts?
understand I understand your sentiment. I personally like Majora's Mask more
That's fair.
than Ocarina of Time because of the like the darker tones and the different storytelling elements that they put inside of it. Because it's just so much darker and there's so much more that they do with that, with all the like subtle context of grief and depression and all that.
Mm.
It just like it throws a lot more at you, but Ocarina of Time is definitely bigger and grander in that sense. It's just Majora's Mask. It's a different game for sure.
Oh yeah. How do you feel about the time mechanic in that game?
I You would think that I wouldn't like it based on like my other normal tastes, but I actually do really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is kind of irritating at some points because it feels like you're just resetting everything and there's a lot to worry about and you're always on a time constraint. But they give you a lot of tools to work around with it,
Mm-hmm.
and they set up the world like designed around that, and they tell the story around that by like, you want to go and save one side of the world, and then you reset time to go save another side of the world with everything in the back of your mind being like, everything's still terrible over there that I just saved 5 minutes ago because I reset everything,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still a tool they use to get to the end of the game, and you eventually do save the world and whatever.
First.
There's also a really good manga on it too,
Oh yeah.
unofficial manga.
There's
Hmm.
an unofficial manga. Isn't there also an official one, or did they never make a
Well,
Majora's Mask manga?
like I guess it's official. It's just not like canon to
Oh,
the
I see.
games
I see
themselves.
what you're saying.
They just tell it a little different.
Yeah.
Hmm. The Ocarina of Time one's really good too.
As far, yeah, that one's sad because with
Hmm.
little baby Volvagia, it's
Yeah,
sad.
it
Um,
is.
with the time loop mechanically, I find it very frustrating. As someone
Mhm.
who likes who does tend to take their time, but more importantly in this case, someone who hates feeling like they've wasted their time.
Yeah.
Because there are several instances when I've tried to play this game where I'll be like almost at the end of a dungeon, and then I'll reach the end of my time limit, and then I have to start all the way over, and it's like
Hmm.
I just want time to pause once I'm in the dungeon. Like everything else
Yeah.
is fine, but from a storytelling perspective, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like this game is leaps and bounds above Ocarina of Time and a lot of other Zelda games as far as like the depth of the story that they're telling, and the
Hmm.
time loop is such an integral, cleverly used part of that.
Yeah.
You couldn't remove. I don't know how you could remove the mechanic of the time loop and keep it the same game.
Yeah.
So I'll make my way through it eventually.
What One of the gripes I did have about the original game that I when I was playing it growing up was the amount of clutter that's on the screen. I don't know if you had this problem, but you have your items in the upper right corner with like all your C buttons and your sword and shield and
Mm-hmm.
everything. You have the start button up there, and then you have your health indicators and magic on the left hand side, and then the bottom like third of the
Yeah,
screen
it's a
is
big
covered by the
clock,
clock. Yeah,
and don't forget
it
the
takes
mini
up
map.
and the mini map in the bottom right corner too, and then like your rupees and stuff in the bottom left.
Yeah,
Which that's one of the things that the 3DS version fixed, but the 3DS version also broke some things that a lot of fans got really upset about, like the swimming mechanics and stuff, are just
yeah, I've
completely
heard.
thrown off.
I've heard they
Which
also
they did,
changed some of the bosses.
hmm and they did such a good job with the swimming mechanics in Majora's Mask on the N64. It was like actually enjoyable to be in the water because it was so much fun, and then they just kind of ruined it by like limiting the way that you can move in the 3DS version. So it's give and take. Like it's better graphics, less screen color, but also the other downsides.
So if they were to ever make like a Majora's Mask HD on for Switch or a future system, would you want them to build off of the 3DS version or build off of the original?
The original,
Okay,
for sure.
that's what I figured. But
Just fix the screen clutter and that's all I care.
screen color didn't bother me, but I also haven't played this game since I was high school, maybe. Might have played it,
Yeah.
started at one random college and or summer in college. I don't know.
Maybe you would have never noticed it until I had said something.
I definitely like was conscious of the big clock, like right here.
Yeah.
Um, Next is F-Zero X.
I
What?
wish I loved this game. I've never played it before.
Why isn't there a Nintendo sponsored F-Zero Battle Royale? Because the
Go
way the
on.
game works is it's high speed, futuristic, like massive amount of participant racing. There's 30 racers on each track. And
Yeah.
the main game is just racing, but there's also a death mode where you just go
Oh,
around and around the track until your car explodes and you're trying to be the last one standing.
oh,
But
that's
you
really cool.
but you can only do it with computers. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I think you might be able to do it multiplayer. I'm not, but I think you can only do it with computers. But like, get some HD quality tracks, throw it on Nintendo Switch Online,
Mm-hmm.
make 30 to heck, make the tracks bigger, make it 50 racers, real people driving around in their F-Zero
Mm-hmm.
machines, flying through space and knocking each other off the tracks until they explode, and the last person standing wins, gets a victory royale. I'm giving you money, Nintendo. Just make this
Do you
happen. Because
you want Tetris 99 but F-Zero
yes, that's
or
exactly
Super
what I
Mario
want.
35 with F-Zero?
I just want an F-Zero battle royale. I think
That would be really fun.
I get. I don't actually get. I was gonna say I get why Nintendo hasn't made a new F Zero. I don't really get it. A lot of the arguments I see is like, well, they already have Mario Kart. That's their racing franchise. They're so different. They are
Mm-hmm.
nothing alike.
Yeah.
An F Zero game would be closer to like a Gran Turismo than it would be to Mario Kart. Like,
Yeah.
obviously they're not exactly the same, but it would be closer. And I feel like Nintendo could use a game like that on their system, and I think
They've always
that.
said they just don't have the new ideas to make it like fresh enough or
So
something.
make it a battle royale.
That's a
That's
good, yeah,
that's what you
that's a
need to
battle
do.
royale. That would do it.
Otherwise, F Zero X is it's fine. It's better than the first F Zero. Better
Mhm.
than the one that was on Game Boy Advance. Might not be as good as GX on the GameCube. Haven't played that one, but it's
Yeah,
fun.
I
It's
played.
it's
I,
fun.
I did play GX a little bit with my cousins like years and years ago, but it was only for like one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being a lot of fun because it's, high intensity. There's sparks flying everywhere. You're going a million miles an hour, like flying through tracks and everything. So it's definitely different than Mario Kart, different enough that they could make a new game.
Yeah, and it's
But
kind of the opposite of Mario Kart because Mario Kart has like control wise, you turn, but then if you drift with the shoulder buttons, you can do like sharper turns.
mhm.
In F Zero, you turn pretty. The handling's pretty sharp on its own, and the shoulder buttons instead of drifting, it's like strafing left and right,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I don't know that I'm used to, but I think it's really interesting and could make for some like
Mhm.
interesting track design. Just
It's like a
forcing you to
newer
strafe.
gen Sonic game.
So you think it's bad? Is that what you're saying? You think F Zero is bad?
That's what I'm saying. It's like Sonic Generations, basically.
Oh, okay. The next game that came out in April was Mario Golf.
It's another game that I have odd nostalgia ties to.
Yeah.
It's like it's most of these games on this list. But this is one of the games that my brother played a lot when I was still like a baby.
Uh huh.
And he always told me that I kept deleting his save file in this game and in Mario 64. And I
Oh.
have no memory of doing any of that. But I did start up Mario Golf on Nintendo Switch Online, and I'm realizing either how bad I am at golf or how hard it is to unlock the like 30 characters in this game because you only start out with like four.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of characters, and you have to like play through most of a match or like most of a round of golf and beat them
Mm-hmm.
to unlock them, and it takes forever.
Yeah, Mario Golf has always been one of those series where I'm like, yeah, this would be awesome. I love Mario. Golf is fine. Let's do it. And then And like, yeah, 18 holes, let's go, or even 9 holes, let's go, and I get to hole number 4, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
why is this still happening? And I'm also just
Yeah.
bad at it. Um, but
I
it's still
I will
fun.
admit that I do love this game, just
Yeah.
because I have played it so much with my brother growing up, and especially doing like the mini golf,
Mm,
which my brother also still always wrecks me in mini golf in this game. And I think it's the only Mario Golf that has had mini golf since.
really,
hmm
I would
This is all.
I would be all over a Mario mini golf game. That sounds great.
This is also the first game on the list that has the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy connectivity that doesn't have that on the Nintendo Switch version.
What did the Game Boy connectivity do? Was like just printing?
It, it connected to the Mario Golf on the Game Boy. And in Mario Golf on the Game Boy, which was kind of like an RPG, you could transfer your custom characters over to Mario Golf on the 64
Oh, that's
if you
crazy.
used like the transfer pack or whatever. So,
That
assuming they do Nintendo Switch Game Boy Online, maybe there will be some connectivity between Mario Golf games.
that's crazy. That sounds really cool, actually.
hmm Yeah, that's what the four like bottom slots. If you look at the roster, there are four slots along the bottom row, and then the two long rows. The two long
Hmm.
rows are all the characters you unlock, and then the four bottom ones are extra characters you can transfer from the Game Boy.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
May they release Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. I'm a pretty big Kirby fan. I've played most of the games. Never
hmm
touched this one until today. You can mix power ups, which is super cool.
hmm
Kind of scary if you mix two cutter abilities together. I don't know what you call it, but it's like super cutter. And Kirby literally just like peels off a chunk of his body and like throws it.
Oh yeah.
It's like a big pink boomerang, and then if you look back at Kirby, he's like shaped like this.
Yeah.
He's got a face on the boomerang. It's kind of gross. Um,
Mhm.
it seems cool. You move so slow. You move unbearably slow in that game, even if you like
Yeah.
double tap to dash.
hmm
Um, that is as much criticism as I have because I only played it for like 7 minutes.
I think this might have actually been like my first traditional Kirby game,
Mm-hmm.
which was like kind of a good thing and a bad thing because I did love the game when I first played it, but it also made me wish that every Kirby game that I've played since had the ability to combine power-ups like that.
Yeah,
So every Kirby game that's come out since has been like disappointing to me because I can't combine any other abilities with each other. Because that was like my favorite part of this game is like making like lightsabers and refrigerators and like shuffleboarding picks or whatever and all that.
did you play Star Allies?
Yeah, I did.
That has kind of power combining. It's not quite
That,
as well fleshed
that
out.
was I think that was even worse because the best you could do would be like, get sword and then fire and it's like, oh you have fire sword or you have water sword and you have thunder sword.
Yeah,
It was uninspired compared to 64 crystal shards.
it absolutely was. A lot of it was just creating elemental weapons.
But
But if I remember correctly, there was some interesting stuff like you can mix the stone ability and the ice ability, and you'd get like a curling. You turn into like a little
yeah,
curling puck or
yeah, the
whatever those are called.
curling iron. Yeah.
I don't think it's a curling iron. I think that's something else. But yeah,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it seems cool. I really like the like uh, coloring book aesthetic that the game
hmm
has. That kind of started in, as far as I'm aware, like Dreamland 3 on the Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, I
is
think you're probably right.
very coloring book aesthetic.
hmm
So it's interesting.
I, I do. I think you are probably right about it being slow because one of the things I remember is getting like the dual fire ability to
Uh,
turn in like a firebird or whatever and just shoot across the screen faster to try and get from one point to the other. So I think you're probably right about it being slow.
it feels so slow, but Kirby's good. Um,
hmm
you got to play the new one, whatever that one's called, The Forgotten Land. That's so
Yeah,
good,
I did.
Joe.
It's
It's
really, really good.
so good.
100%ed it a while back.
Nice. I still got to go back and beat like the post game stuff, but it's really
hmm
good.
It's good stuff.
All right, and then the last game that they've announced is coming is Pokemon Snap. This hasn't been officially announced to release in June. It probably will, just because they released one game a month since then.
hmm
So we'll
And
probably see it at some point this month.
this is the last game that was in like the trailer that they showed off announcing games.
Mm-hmm. And Pokemon Snap is, I enjoyed it. You can check out our backlog crew of it.
hmm
That was a good time.
We've already
But
talked about this.
yeah, we already talked about this like really in depth. at this point, that was before New Pokemon Snap came out. At this
Yeah.
point, you could play it if you're just like a retro game fan and you just like looking at the old graphics, seeing what the old games were
Hmm.
like.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, oh no, you need to play this before you do New Pokemon Snap. Just go get New Pokemon Snap. It's better and it's prettier. So go play
Hmm.
that.
There's a lot less chatter in the old game though.
That's
The
true.
new
There
game, I
is a
felt
lot
like I
less
was
chatter.
smashing through dialogue for like 3 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Was it weird to you that the I don't remember the girl's name, but like the girl with
Oh
like the purple hair, you know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Was it weird to you that she didn't turn out to be the villain? Because like from the moment I saw her in the trailer, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna actually be evil
Mm.
because her hair literally like makes devil horns, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's gonna
Yeah,
be the evil character. But nope, there was no evil character in the whole game.
that makes sense. I didn't actually finish the game, but I didn't even consider there being an antagonist in Pokemon Snap.
Oh, sorry to spoil it.
Oh, you're good. I didn't think there was an antagonist anyway.
I was waiting for someone to be like, haha, I stole all your pictures and now I'm gonna use the data to steal the Pokemon. I don't know. I don't know what I was
Now,
expecting. I thought it was gonna be something.
and now you got to throw Pokeballs at Mew or whatever to get them back.
Nah. Nah. That
No.
was rough in the original game.
Yeah.
But Joe, that's all they've announced. That's all they've announced, and let's see,
Now we can
16
theorize
games.
about what they're gonna do next.
Yeah, the 16 games. That's not enough, Joe. We need more
No,
than
it's not.
16 and 64 games to not play.
Yeah.
So, we have a list that we're looking at that we've kind of marked the big popular games that are pretty well respected. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to start with the games that we both have highlighted on here. So
All
let's
right.
start at the top with Banjo-Tooie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I talked about Banjo-Kazooie enough. I want to see Banjo-Tooie. You're the one that grew up with it. Why do you want
Yeah.
Banjo-Tooie?
Yeah. I already mentioned that I played Banjo-Tooie a lot growing up. It's also one of the games that I didn't beat until I was like a teenager, even though I had it from as far as I know since birth.
Uh
But I'm one of the things I'm really curious about Banjo-Tooie is the thing in the N64 version is they made the game grander than I think the N64 was capable of handling. So if you played the original N64 game, there's a lot of lag throughout
uh.
the entire game. Right? It's like 15 frames for the entire game. It's it's pretty rough,
Yeah.
and it's kind of infamous because like we already mentioned that Rare was bought by Microsoft and they re-released it on the Xbox 360 and they removed the lag. So a lot of people would consider that to be like the ideal way to play. But they also, Rare being Rare, made it so the game like went along with the lag in the sense that they timed like the music and the cutscenes and stuff around how they
Oh.
slowed the game down. So if you play the Xbox 360 version, the sound is like behind where the actual game is because it's not lagging. So I assume they're going to bring Banjo-Tooie to the Nintendo Switch Online, but I'm still very curious if they're going to like re-implement the lag just to keep the continuity between the cutscenes,
Uh.
or if they'll get rid of it to make the entire game better.
That's so interesting.
Hmm.
Could
And
they
I don't
could they insert the lag like just in the cutscenes? Like, is that a thing that can happen?
I don't know. Maybe they can just have like the MP4 files of the cutscenes from the N64 version and then make the whole game better. But I don't know.
That's strange.
Anyway,
I hadn't heard of that.
yeah, Banjo-Tooie is it's really fun, but it has the same rare problem that we'll probably talk about in a minute here of worlds being too big and
Mm,
sometimes too many things to collect. Not nearly as bad as like Donkey Kong 64, but the worlds are really big in Banjo-Tooie
yeah.
compared to Banjo-Kazooie, where you're just taking forever to get from one point to the other.
Huh. That's a shame because I think the worlds in Banjo Kazooie were like perfectly sized. Like
Hmm.
they were
Yeah,
open and large, but not overwhelming.
they definitely saw Banjo-Kazooie and they were like, "This is really fun. What else can we do? Make it bigger."
Mm,
And they certainly did. But it's still an incredibly creative game. The music's really fun. There's tons of upgrades and things that keep it really interesting. And it has all that rare Banjo-Kazooie charm in it. It's just a lot bigger and a lot slower. But I still love it. I have a soft spot for it because I grew up with it.
I still want to see it come to N64 online. I still want to play it.
Hmm.
Um, the next two games we're going to talk about are, I think, they're also by Rare, and I think they're pretty likely, along with Banjo-Tooie, to come. At least more likely than Rare's other N64 games, like
Hmm.
GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. Those aren't going to
Yeah.
come. Jet Force Gemini, probably not going to come.
Hmm.
Uh, let's handle this in a bundle. Donkey Kong 64 and Diddy Kong Racing. Same series,
Yeah.
kinda, question mark. Out of these two, I think I'd rather see Donkey Kong 64, just because what I played of Diddy Kong Racing, it's kind of like a worse Mario Kart 64, and Mario Kart 64 is not very good. So
That might be controversial. People love Diddy Kong Racing.
I know they do, and I'm not trying to like yuck anybody's yum. They can like it. I
Hmm.
just what little I played of it, maybe I just was doing something wrong. I just didn't really
Yeah.
love it. But you have it highlighted, so go for it, man. Do you
I
like it?
honestly wouldn't. I haven't played it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't come to N64 Online because every character in that game is owned by Rare.
Except Diddy Kong.
Diddy Kong's made by Rare,
That's
but
true,
I mean
but
it's owned,
pretty
it's owned
sure
by Nintendo.
I'm pretty
Every
sure
character in that
Nintendo
game
owns
was
it.
every character in that game was made by Rare at the very
Wow.
least. But I've seen like Let's Plays of this game and it's different from Mario Kart 64 because it's almost a story-based game in the sense that there's like level progression, there's different kinds of vehicles, there's a story to it because there's an antagonist and they're the boss that you fight at the end.
Hmm.
But I would I would probably say it's probably a better Mario Kart 64, but it's also different enough that it's kind of its own thing. But just the fact that there's planes, there's boats, there's cars, there's like a world map, there's characters that talk to you, there's characters that want to fight you and all kinds of stuff. It I think it'd be really fun, especially to have online multiplayer with.
Yeah, I'd give it a shot. I think I've only played the multiplayer, so I guess I haven't seen like the single player elements that make it unique.
Hmm.
So I'd be down to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then Donkey Kong 64 is your favorite game of all time, is that right?
I don't know if I've said that. You could take everything I just said about Banjo-Tooie and slap it on Donkey Kong 64.
Would you overemphasize the amount of collectibles, or is there really that many Banjo Tooie?
No, Banjo-Tooie is not nearly as bad about collectibles.
Because
Donkey
Donkey
Kong
Kong
64,
64 has like way too many, and then it also has 4 characters, and it has way too many for each character.
I'm trying to remember Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Lanky Kong, Tiny Kong, Chunky, 5 characters.
There's 5 characters. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Yeah, they took collectibles and then they added too many and then they made it even more tedious
What is a
by
Chunky Kong? What is that?
I'm almost positive that's his name.
I
Good
mean,
old
I
Chunky Kong.
I believe you. I believe
Yeah,
you.
Chunky
I'm
Kong.
just flabbergasted that that
He's
exists.
he's a big boy and he's very scared of everything. He's like the timid giant guy.
Oh, okay, okay,
And he
sure.
shoots pineapples.
He shoots pineapples.
Uh-huh.
That sounds
He has a
kind of
gun
nice.
that shoots pineapples. Have you played Donkey Kong 64?
So I had it on a Wii Virtual Console, and I started it. I think I
Hmm.
unlocked Lanky Kong,
Yeah.
and then I was like, I am overwhelmed because all I want to do is get all of the bananas, but there are too many bananas, and so I can't
Yeah.
get them all.
There's like 500 per world, and there's like 9 or 10 worlds in the game. The game is massive.
It
For a
was
3D platformer, it takes way too long.
it was also weird because again, using like the right stick as the C buttons, and
Hmm.
it's like press up to pull out your gun, and I'm like, first of all,
Yeah.
why do I have a gun? Second of all, I don't want to press that button to pull it out.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah, I feel
they did.
like. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they did the thing I mentioned earlier, where like having C buttons on an N64 controller makes this game make more sense because they put so much emphasis and control around the
Hmm.
C buttons, where you're doing different things by pressing the C buttons individually, and then you have different actions for holding Z and pressing every individual C button.
That's
Like,
right. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
holding Z and C right brings out the gun, left throws bombs, down, I forget, does I think that makes you use your instrument, up does something else. And there's like all these different command actions you can do by holding Z and pressing A or pressing B, and just they were very ambitious with that game in the sense that it was probably not a good thing, but it's still huge and it's still kind of fun because there's so much that they actually did do with it. It's just too big and there's too much.
Didn't you challenge me to a race to 100% that game at one point? Were you serious about that? Because I remember I just said no, like outright when you asked.
I mean, we could. I've never done it. It
Oh,
took me like
okay.
15 years. It took me 15 years to beat this
Oh
game.
my gosh. Of all the rare games, I think Donkey Kong 64 is the most likely to
Hmm.
come. I think just because they've re-released it in the past. I think Banjo
Yeah,
Tooie would be like second most likely.
I would agree
I'd
with that.
rather see Banjo Tooie, but I would give Donkey Kong 64 another shot if it just showed up.
Hmm.
This last game that we both have highlighted, I feel like this has to come. Like this has to be the opening shot of like the new announcement trailer for the new games that are coming,
Hmm.
and that's the original Super Smash Brothers.
I'm surprised it's not out already, to be honest. I figured this would have been like opening lineup.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I mean, it's not like surely they're not fearful that having this on the console for free would cannibalize Ultimate sales. Like
It's gonna
surely.
hurt ultimate sales.
Did you ever see the original commercial for this game?
Oh yeah, it's
It is
hilarious.
so good. If you haven't, if you're watching and you haven't seen the commercial, just look up original Smash Bros. Commercial. It's so good.
Hmm.
Um,
Really funny.
I mean, honestly, this would be a game to have just kind of like Mario Tennis or Mario Golf,
Hmm.
just for like, oh, let's play the old one because it's nostalgic and that's kind of cool to see how the old ones were.
Yeah.
There are better versions
Yeah.
of
Unfortunately,
Smash on Switch.
there's just not really much to come back to compared to every other entry in the
Mm-hmm.
franchise. Because like there's I think there's what like 8 or 9 stages, like 10 characters, and
12.
the lack
Thank
of
you very much.
12. My bad.
It's okay.
And the lack of a side B or side special attack.
Lack of a
There's
side special attack, and there's no smash attacks, right?
there are smash attacks.
Are there?
You just
Okay.
can't charge them.
That's what
But
it is. You can't
there's no
charge your
side
smash
special.
attacks.
And just the game is janky, but it's still the first Smash Brothers, so it's still going to be fun. It's just compared to every other Smash game, there's not much to come back to other than the fact that this game is old and it has really loud punching sounds.
It really does. It also has crazy hitboxes. I'm pretty sure Kirby's down, maybe his down tilts. He like kicks backwards and kind of up into the air, and the
Yeah,
hitbox is like 3 times taller than he is. Like it makes no sense. It's really funny.
yeah. I guess it is one of the games where Kirby was a good character.
Oh, that's sad. All right, I marked a couple other games that we can just talk through real quick.
Yeah.
Animal Forest, that was the original Japanese release of what we eventually got as Animal Crossing on the GameCube. They like ported
Hmm.
it and kind of updated it. I think that would be
Yeah.
really cool for them to localize and us just kind of see what that would have been like on the N64.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Mario Party 1 through 3. So this is one where Mario Party Superstars is out.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to release any of these, especially number 1, because that's the one that destroyed everyone's hands and they had to send
Yeah.
free gloves to everybody who filed a complaint.
Got literally sued.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Which is weird because in Mario Party Superstars, they still have one of those mini games where it's like rotate the stick as fast as you can, and
Yeah,
everybody that I
you're
played
right.
with is immediately just
Yeah.
like doing the exact same thing that
Yeah.
everybody did in the '90s.
Well, I guess the problem back then was the N64 controller had a plastic joystick.
That's
It wasn't rubberized or anything.
it was like hard plastic. That's true.
Yeah, that was why people got so hurt from it. So maybe they will release Mario Party 1.
Maybe, but I would like to play these old ones just because like Superstars is
Mhm.
good, but
Mhm.
it's not it's not all 3 games completely. It's a
Yeah,
little from this one, a little from that one mashed together. So I think it'd still be worthwhile to have
yeah.
all 3 of
And
these.
you're
But
definitely you're missing a lot of boards from the first 3 games in Superstars.
what is with the Switch Mario Party is only having like 4 boards? Like that's
I know.
ridiculous.
Why don't they have DLC?
But just I
I would I
I
would
don't
pay
know.
for more.
I have no idea. They're doubling the amount of tracks in Mario Kart 8, but heaven forbid they make a new Mario Kart board.
The double the amount of tracks in like a 12-year-old Mario Kart game on the Switch.
The last 2 games I've highlighted here are games I haven't played before, but I've just heard good things about, and I think they'd be really
Mhm.
fascinating. Do I think they're likely? No, these games will never come into the Switch Online, but it would be cool. One of them is Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, and
Yeah,
as far as I can tell, it's like a cross between Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, where it's like a 3D platformer, but it's also like an adventure game.
Hmm.
where you're talking to people and collecting items, but then you're still platforming around like open areas, and it looks like there's also several playable characters. So
Oh,
just
really?
yeah, I'm not sure how different they are because I haven't played it. They might all control the same, but I remember I was
Hmm.
like watching a little bit about it, and I saw at least 4 or 5 playable characters, which
Yeah.
was really interesting.
The only
Um,
thing I really knew about the game was that it existed, but I was going to throw it on this list because I knew it was something that never got released in the West.
really
And I thought it
hasn't
would
been
be really
released in the
interesting.
West. I didn't know that.
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
I believe you. You can say whatever you want. No one's gonna check. This is the internet. No one's gonna check.
True.
Um, yeah, that's one I would definitely check out. If it came, if it was good, I would see through it.
Oh no, I'm completely crazy. It came out in the West.
Okay, I was about to say like I was watching English footage, but it could have been a fan translation. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Um,
crazy.
I saw you just add Star Wars Episode One Racer, um,
Yeah.
and then I also have put down Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Mm.
So Episode One Racer, you can talk about that.
Yeah, that's pod racing on
Yes.
the N64, and it's actually really fun and pretty in depth. It's, I guess you could almost compare it to F-Zero because it's the fact that you're going really, really fast along tracks and you can destroy other racers by bumping into them enough. But they threw in like 40 tracks and like a ton of different playable characters all from the Star Wars universe that a lot of fans probably never even knew the names of,
Hmm.
aside from like Anakin and Sebulba, the one character from Episode 1. But it's they don't have items, so it's not, it's not like Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing or something, but you're just going around tracks really fast, and they have like secret techniques where you can like turn your pod on its side and like do boosts if you charge up for a few seconds, and then you can overheat if you boost for too long and your engines can blow up.
Oh
And you
wow.
also have the ability to repair your ship while you're driving. If you've been bumping into walls too much, your engines will like there's an indicator on the bottom left side from where your engines will go from green to yellow to red, indicating how damaged they are.
Hmm.
And you can hold a button to slow down and repair your engines, get them back to green, and then go back to full speed without having to worry about bumping into walls and blowing up easy. It's really fun, and
This
it did.
seems more in depth than I was aware it was.
Hmm. It's really, really cool. I highly recommend it.
If you want to check it out, you can go to the Nintendo eShop right now and buy the remastered version that came out like last year or the year before that.
Really,
Uh, it's probably not going to come to NSO because of that.
I didn't know this happened.
Yeah, it's like literally the exact game, but like I think it's an HD. I don't think it's just like a straight port. I don't think they redid the models and stuff, but it's like upresed at least.
Oh, it's on Steam.
Yeah, I think it's on everything. So check it
Huh.
out. Speaking of like the pod racing, excuse me, Megan and I have been playing Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and we were playing
Yeah.
through Episode One, and we're doing the pod racing section, and I was player one and Megan was player two, so I was Anakin, and then Megan was one of those random Star Wars characters you were talking about. I don't remember their name, but it was somebody that was in the movie. Just you just kind of
Hmm.
saw them in the background. But she
Yeah.
ended up actually winning the race, like crossing the finish line before me, who
Yeah.
Anakin. And so it like gets to the cutscene, and I'm just like, are they just gonna pretend that I won? Like, what's about to happen? And it shows it like pulls us back to like inching towards the finish line, and Megan's character is like just going, and the finish line's like right here, and then right before it gets there, it just goes like just makes a like 90-degree turn and flies into a pillar and explodes, and then Anakin just like flies by.
That's
It's
hilarious.
really really good. um, and then the one I put down was Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. I'm pretty sure in this one you play as a bounty hunter? Question mark. I'm not sure, but it takes place during the original trilogy, and it's like a third-person action shooter. I've
Hmm.
heard it's clunky, but I've also heard that it's beloved. And as a big Star Wars fan, who what little I've played of Episode One Racer, it didn't stand out to me, but I also didn't know all those mechanics you were talking about existed. Shadows of the
Yeah.
Empire is one that I haven't tried that I'd really like to get into. And I'm pretty sure that when they did the special edition of the original trilogy, where George Lucas discovered what CGI was,
Hmm.
that he like CGI'd in the ship that the main character flies in this game into the original trilogy. Like I think you can see
Oh,
it leaving Tatooine at some point. It's kind of interesting.
yeah. That's cool. I have like very vague memories. Maybe it's of this game, but of being at somebody's house and watching them play a Star Wars game on the N64 where they're playing, I thought as like a stormtrooper, but maybe it was a bounty hunter. And I remember them like using a jetpack to fly from pillar to pillar.
I think
And
that
that's
was
pretty
Shadows
much
of the
all I have.
Empire. I'm pretty sure you have a
Yeah.
jetpack in Shadows of the Empire.
All right, so maybe that's this. Yeah, I would love to play that. I've never known what that game was.
I don't know if there might be Shadows of the Empire port. It's on Steam.
That makes sense. All the Star Wars games are on Steam.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was like a N64 exclusive because Nintendo sometimes has like weird deals.
Yeah.
Looks like it's only ever been released on N64 and PC.
Hmm.
Windows specifically. Well, I guess PC is Windows, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not on Mac.
This is probably it.
This is probably unlikely to happen, but I think it'd be cool if it did.
Hmm.
Are
I think it would be really cool.
Are there any games that you want to mention before we sign out?
Let me look at this list here. Hey You Pikachu would be interesting. They would have to release a microphone
I would
adapter for
buy
it.
that microphone so fast, like you don't understand.
Have you played Hey You Pikachu before?
I have not. I have
I need
not.
to let you borrow it. I have the microphone in the game and everything.
I would also need an N64. You can let me borrow
Oh
all of
yeah.
those things.
You, yeah,
I
you
will
can borrow
play
my
it.
N64 and my HDMI adapters and everything.
If you
You
buy
can
me a
borrow my
capture
CRT.
card, I'll even record myself playing it.
Or you could just take my CRT TV to play directly on it.
Oh
My
goodness.
like 300-pound TV.
Yeah, just bring all that. Bring all that to my house.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
but
very
get
silly
my
game.
new address first.
Yeah. Oh
Looking
god.
over this, Perfect Dark would be cool. Ogre Battle. I've never really played Ogre Battle, but I know that series is beloved. Rayman 2. I'm surprised you didn't say anything about Rayman 2. Is
Uh,
N64 not the way to play it?
I think that is like one of the ideal ways to play it actually. I think I mentioned it to you before. I only played it on my old iPod Touch when I was a
Oh,
kid.
that's right.
Yeah, but it's a really fun game. It's a really good 3D platformer. I'd recommend playing it some way or another. Um, Chameleon Twist is another game that I had growing up. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of Chameleon Twist 1 or 2 before.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen gameplay.
Uh, you, I don't really
Is
know
that a
what.
chameleon? And
Are you looking
the
at it?
second one is a chameleon. Is the first one a chameleon?
So in the opening intro of
In the
Chameleon
beginning.
Twist 1, of Chameleon Twist 1, you are a legitimate chameleon sitting on a log and you get teleported into some fantastical world as bipedal chameleon guy with giant head and extremely long tongue.
So there's a lore reason. I'm looking at the cover art right now. Why is there an Oreo in the background?
You fight sweets, I think, in the game.
Oh, it's actually an Oreo. Okay, great, great.
I or some kind of, not Oreo, but yeah,
It's like
you
ice cream
use your
sandwich.
tongue in the game to fight things by like licking up obstacles and items and stuff and then shooting them back at the enemies. And you also use your tongue for traversal by like uh having your tongue touch walls and then pulling yourself to the wall that your tongue touches
I
or like
would.
launching yourself in the air and stuff.
I was gonna make a joke about how you should just play Yoshi instead, but that actually does sound pretty cool with the traversal
It's
elements.
it's like when you capture Yoshi in Mario Odyssey where
Oh
you can
yeah,
like
I forgot about.
grab the ground with your tongue and launch yourself forward.
Or like Mario Galaxy 2, where you could use the tongue to like swing
Yeah.
off of the platforms. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Kind of like that.
I
The funny
would
thing is like
check out Chameleon
Chameleon
Twist.
Chameleon Twist 1 and 2 are also very different. I mean like they are like the same gameplay and stuff. It's just the art styles and everything are very different.
Yeah,
I
just
guess
seeing the box arts, they look completely different.
hmm
That's interesting.
I only had one, but I've seen gameplay of two and they were a fun time. Um I guess that's about all I had to mention.
Yeah, we're gonna finish strong on Chameleon Twist. Uh, all right, Joe. Thanks for joining me. Everybody,
Yeah.
thank you so much for watching. Which of the games that's on N64 on Nintendo Switch Online right now is your favorite? We're gonna be recording a separate video, Salty Tears video, where we rank the games that are currently on there and decide which ones are our favorites. But let us know yours in the comments, and let us know what games you want to see added. We got a lot on this list that we didn't talk about. Castlevania 64, which I'm pretty sure is bad. Conker's Bad Fur Day, not gonna happen. Excite Bike 64, GoldenEye, Harvest Moon, Jet Force Gemini, Mega Man Legends, Pilot Wing, just a bunch. Pokemon, weird Pokemon games. That Pokemon Stadium, which would be cool to play mini games, but you couldn't connect to your actual Pokemon game. So what's the point? 1 and 12. Joe just typed Pokemon Stadium 1 and 12.
Yeah, don't forget the 12th game in the series.
All right, John's not here, so I'm gonna have to do the shilling real quick. If you enjoyed this content, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. It helps. Tell a friend. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this episode of Press A to Talk. We will see you next time.
Bye.